Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com. Happy Saturday. You guys made it to the weekend. And, of course, the Saturday show means NASCAR. And, man, we have got a hot one this week, literally, as well as figuratively down there from the great state of Texas. Man, and we've got, of course, two of the hottest pickers around, yourself, your present company excluded. Of course, I'm a little bit chilly, but we got two hot guys to give you their picks. And, of course, as always, sitting in that right-hand seat, co-piloting the show with me is Scott Reichel. Scott, happy Saturday. How are you, buddy?
Doing pretty well. Would have been better if Tiger missed the cut, but the cut moved to +3, and I lost on some props on that one, especially when you take Tiger to not hit a ball in the water and hit second or third hole of his day 3 that shouldn't have existed, hits it into the water. So, it happens, but still a lot of golf left to be played. We'll see what happens, but overall, bit unfortunate that the cut moved to +3 for Tiger. For Tiger, it was lucky. For me, it wasn't, but it is what it is.
For the record, we also would have accepted as an answer to that question, fine.
Yes.
All right. And now, somebody's got over 38 and a half minutes, I'll just tell you that. And, of course, as always, our NASCAR sniper down there in Clarksdale, Mississippi, he's at the crossroads making that deal with the devil. Maybe he's got a little pick cooked up for us in the NASCAR race tomorrow. It is Will Mormon, Winning Willie. How are you, buddy?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me. Racing from Texas this weekend. One of the few tracks that you're actually going to hear me say that I do not like. I hate this racetrack, but we're here.
Well, and they've reconfigured it a little bit. The thing that I remember about Texas the most was when they ran IRL there. Probably been about 10 years ago, and they ran into the corners, and the guys started blacking out. The grip was so good, and the track was so fast that the IRL drivers actually pulled enough G's going through the corners that they blacked out, and they actually canceled the race. So I know they've reconfigured it. I don't like any of these mile-and-a-half cookie-cutter tracks. I've said it before. Kansas, Chicago, Vegas, Texas, Kentucky, to me, I like a little personality in a track, and I don't think these cookie cutter 1.5s have a lot of personality. But as Scott often says, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. You go to war with the track you got, not the track you want. And this week we're going to war in Texas. So guys, let's see what we got down here. It's kind of an interesting race. We got there are a couple drivers that dominate and a couple of drivers that do okay. And then, man, we got a lot of shots in the dark. So we're going to throw a couple darts and see what we got. Willie, as always, we're going to, of course, recap real quick the Winners and Whiners Cup standings. I don't think we've had Willie on the line since Scott took over the lead. And Scott is now the leader in the Winners and Whiners Cup, as he is 48 points above Willie and a cool 90 points above your humble host. So we'll see if we can spin that around this weekend. Maybe get Willie back in the lead. Maybe get me to cut some of that lead in half. Maybe would be a good thing. So, Willie, get us started. Tell us who you got this weekend.
Well, let's go ahead and get the most obvious pick out of the way, and I'm pretty sure all three of us have him. Let's go with Kevin Harvick.
Yep. You got.
I don't know if anybody sees a better price.
What line did you say?
3 to 1 plus 300.
I see, DraftKings yesterday at 4.5 to 1, so I originally had that as my line. But yeah, it appears DraftKings realized it was about $1.50 too high. So yeah, I saw
line move.
I pulled the trigger yesterday at +450. But
Scott, you got Harvick?
Yeah, I got Harvick. If you want to find the best line now, I see that Fox bet is +375. Checking FanDuel right now, but I believe FanDuel is around 350.
All right, so, I'll take 375.
I got 450 last night, so I guess I got in early, which worked out because I feel like everybody and probably their mothers are going to be on Kevin Harvick this weekend. So why not?
Willie, do the honors. Tell us why tell the crowd why we all have Harvick.
Well, I mean, in the last 6 races, he's won 3 of them and never finished lower than 8th on this track. He loves this track, and not to mention how good he's driving this year. It seems like a broken record. Just bet Kevin Harvick every week, and it should be profitable.
Horrible price. I looked for every angle I could to fade him here and not take him. I couldn't, and I couldn't leave him off my sheet. It's just even at 3-1. You know, if that's the guy you think is going to win the race, you got to put him at the top of your card. Scott, what do you got to add to this?
I took him at plus 450 yesterday on DraftKings because every other line at 375 or worse.
Yeah,
that's no longer available. He's starting 5th, so he's great starting position. He's won 3 of his last 5 races here. Average finish of 10.38. He's the best at this track based on the current field. And even though you might not find much value on him, maybe you might find more value if you wait for a live line. If he gets off to a slow start, maybe you can find him at some point at 4-1, 5-1, something like that. You know he's going to be in the top 5, probably with about, 20 laps to go. And there's really not many drivers you'd rather have than Harvick, especially with the lead, potentially with around 20 laps to go, because he just never forfeits the lead. So, yeah, not really much else to say. I got to take Harvick at 4.5-1 from what I got.
Yeah, your best hope would be that he fails some kind of pre-race inspection or something, gets sent to the back of the field, and maybe you could pick up a live line on him, or even a right before the race after they
maybe a bad pit stop in the middle of stage 2. I don't know. Maybe you can find him at some point 5-1. Yeah. Probably doubtful. But
all right. Yeah. So Scott, give us your first driver that's not Kevin Harvick.
All right, so this was pretty tough. A lot of drivers who are mediocre on this track, not really anybody else who jumps off the page. But I want to go with somebody who probably should have gotten the win last week, and he wasn't able to do it, much to the chagrin of, our co-host here. I'm going with Martin Truex Jr., and I see him available on DraftKings at 10-1, which is a hell of a steal if you compare it to the other lines. He's 8-1 or lower everywhere else, but DraftKings has 10-1. He's starting 10th in this race. He hasn't won this track, but he's finished 10th or better in 8 of his last 10 races here. He's been really good lately, especially if you compare last race where he probably had the best car, and he wasn't able to get the win. I like what I saw lately. I think there's a sign for optimism in the future for Truex, and this is one of his best tracks. So for me, I'll take Truex at 10-1.
All right, very solid indeed. I thought about letting Martin Truex break my heart again, but I passed.
Because he's never actually lifted the trophy here, but he's always been on the cusp.
Right.
Which is for the sake of 10-1, I think it's worth it. So I'm going to take it.
That's a good spin for sure. And I'm going to go. Willie, who's your second driver?
All right, so if you there's only 2 other drivers besides Kevin Harvick here that's won 3 times, and it's Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. All right, and if you look at these 2 and compare them, only one of them has been really successful here, like as a whole, and that's Kyle Busch. I got to do it. I got to take him. He's got 3 wins here. He's second.
I keep joking with you before the show that you're going to take Kyle Busch, and you keep taking Kyle Busch. I actually am shocked.
He is second in the field in laps led on this track, roughly 200 laps behind Jimmy Johnson. And, he's been very successful here. And not only that, as we talked about before the show, he's racing in the truck race and the Xfinity race today also. So, he'll be kind of warmed up. I'd ride the train until it collapses, right?
I think you're riding the train until it gets back up again. I think
or until it shows up the first time.
Kyle Busch, the thing about Kyle Busch is that he's a dangerous driver this entire year because, historically speaking, he's good on basically every track. But this year, he's been bad on almost every track.
He's kind of everywhere.
It's really been a bizarre year for Kyle Busch. I'm not really sure what exactly has happened to him. I know he's still in the chase right now, so he's going to probably make the playoffs. So maybe he can piece something together. I don't know what it is, but there's something either with him and the crew chief or the equipment or something, but they haven't been able to get anything right all year long.
Just really isn't matching up. Willie, what do you got him at 650?
Yeah, that's what I see.
All righty. Okay, I'm gonna go with my second pick. Guy that's had some recent success and runs pretty well at this track. I'm gonna go with Ryan Blaney, catching a nice price of 9-1 on him.
You finally came around on Blaney. I know that you were originally against him like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know. I like him situationally. He's run okay here in his last 6 races. He's got 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s.
It was great last week.
He was great last week, and they've run well on the 1.5 miles, and that's kind of what I've been looking at. So and that's the I'm gonna go ahead and take Ryan Blaney at 9-1. All right. Scotty, who's your third pick?
All right, so this is the long shot section. So needless to say, whoever I pick is probably going to end up in the top 10 based on how this show has gone for
Right.
the last couple of months. I'm going to go with a veteran here, somebody who didn't have the greatest results last week if you just look at the leaderboards, but if you realized he was in the top 5 with about 5 laps to go before Keselowski spun him out, he probably would have finished in the top 5. I'm going with Jimmy, and I like him at 28. I like him at 28-1 on Fox Bet. He's 24-1 or lower everywhere else. Common theme here. I am trying to find a couple dollars of value every now and then. If you can find $4 of value, I'm going to take it. He's starting 20th. Not ideal for a starting spot. However, he has won this race. I believe he's won it. What has he won it? 7 times?
7 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane when you look at how much he's won this race, how many times. Of course, he has struggled a little bit lately on this track, and he's gone up there in years. But average finish of 10.39. He had a very solid car last week before he got spun out, and he had some choice words or cryptic phrases for Brett Keselowski after the race. But Johnson's been really good here, and I think this is the type of spot where you take a shot in the dark with a lot of people who can potentially make a run. And would it shock you if Jimmy was in the top 5 with 20 laps to go? Probably not, because he's been so good here historically. So for me, I'll take Jimmy at 28-1 on a sprinkle.
Okay. All right. Very good. I don't.
You don't hate that?
No, I don't hate it. I'm kind of, other than Harvick, though, I'm kind of trying to avoid some of the older guys just because of the way the conditions are going to be. It's just going to be so brutally hot, and I don't know. And it's one of the reasons I really don't like Willy's pick after Kyle Busch running 2 races and then running the race tomorrow. I don't know, man. I think this temperature. They think this
it's going to be hot.
Take its toll. Oh yeah, it's going to be hot. Willy, what do you got for your long shot?
I'm also taking Jimmy Johnson. He's by far, if you look at statistically, the most successful driver here out of anybody in the field. I want to say he leads all active and inactive drivers with that 7 wins here on this track.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Led 1,152 laps here, and only 2 drivers that are in this race are within 300 laps led on this track of that, and that's Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth. So, numbers don't lie, I think. He's caught a lot of bad breaks this year. I feel him for being a little frustrated last week. He seems to keep getting spun out. But, yeah, you can't pass up a price like that with the success on this track.
If I had to price Jimmy, I would probably put him around 20-1. I think that sounds about right, because I do agree that the conditions might play a factor. However, with the success and the unpredictability in this race, besides Harvick from what we're expecting, I feel like somebody with that much success on this track and somebody who has been running pretty well lately, Jimmy hasn't won, but I think he's been slightly above average in terms of most races. He seems to finish towards the back end of the top 10. A decent amount. 28-1 seems a little bit high for me. I think 20-1 sounds better, at least more accurate to me, so I'm going to take that value.
All right. Well,
Scott, what do you think Jimmy should be priced at? I think 20-1 sounds about right.
I think 20-1 is fair. I'm going to try not to live in the past like you guys with Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson.
I just had a hard time picking some of the other guys who are so volatile and so I don't want to say probable to crash, but there's definitely, I think, a better chance of the younger guys getting their cars a little bit dirtier in the mess than Jimmy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I'm doing it. Because I feel like there's a better chance of him still being in the hunt late than gambling on, for example, an Alex Bowman or any of these other guys who could potentially make a run, and Almirola, one of these guys.
Yeah, I agree, even though Almirola is sitting on the pole. And I'm going to make a pick, and you're going to see I've given you guys a hard time for no reason, because I'm going to go to the old man well as well. I'm going to go with the other Busch brother. I'm going to go with Kurt Busch.
Right, so you just spent the whole thing talking about how you don't like the old guys, and you took
the
old guy?
That's right. That's right. No, and it did worry me. It definitely concerns me. But when you're looking for value, I just think that you got to kind of lean towards experience. I do worry about the weather being a factor, but I like the fact Kurt Busch isn't running all 3 races. I do. I looked at Kyle. I got to admit, I almost got sucked in again, and realizing that he was running both races today and then running that race tomorrow. I mean, I think, these guys lose, 10 pounds running a couple races like that, and when it's 100 to 105 degrees real temperature and then 125 on the track or whatever. I can't imagine running the next day after a day like he's going to have today. So I'm going to take his brother. Basically it's just a value play, guys. Much the same reason you're taking Jimmy Johnson. I've got him at 25-1.
I see 30. I see 31 to 1 on
31-1.
Yeah, I see 31 to 1.
It's an odd number, but I'll take it. Give me Kurt at 31-1. Is that on Fox Bet?
That's on FanDuel.
It's on FanDuel?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Of course, I was on DraftKings. All right. Yeah, that's and he's had again another driver that's had some success here over the years, and he's run well here lately. He hasn't broke through for the win, but in his last 6 races, he got 6 top 10s. He's been close every time, and this could be the year that he's able to sneak through. I'll take Kurt Busch at 31-1. Give me another old guy who'll be sweating his ass off and probably fade coming down the home stretch, but we'll see what happens. And those are our long shots, boys. As you guys each have Jimmy Johnson to break through, and I've got Kurt Busch. Man, we've got some veteran drivers. I noticed we all stayed away from any of the new guys. Ryan Blaney is about as close to a new guy as any of us got, and he has made. I'm just trying to see how many starts Ryan Blaney has at this track. Ryan Blaney has 10 starts at Texas, so that's as close to a new guy. So we all agree that the rookie's not going to do well here.
Well, a brief segue in general. It's not really just the track. For me, the youngsters, I think there's a lot of potential with a lot of the younger drivers.
Right.
I'm a little bit concerned with the lack of consistency. It seems like most of these drivers either finish top 10 or 30th, and there's really no middle ground. I was making the joke a couple months ago about Will Byron and how he seems to crash all the time or he randomly has like a top 5 finish. That was a lot earlier on in the year. But Bowman's been the same way. He's crashed a couple of times where he's been in the top 10. Lola was a huge crash magnet before starting to finish in the top 10. A lot of these guys have potential, even in Eric Jones. But it seems like something either goes perfectly for them and they finish in the top 5, or they mess up a tire or they bump into the wall or something happens. And it just seems like I can't really trust them 100%. And if I can't trust you 100%, I'm not going to put money on you.
Hey, Willie, I know you've been watching NASCAR a long time and kind of building off of what Scott said. I don't remember like the last group of rookies or young drivers. I don't remember those guys being this competitive. I mean, yes, what Scott says is right. A lot of times they finish 30th, 35th, but every once in a while they'll sneak through and they'll put up a top 5 finish. Mm-hmm. They'll even, like a Cole Custer, will win a race. And I don't remember that being the case. I don't remember those guys having the equipment and the skills to be as competitive as they are week in and week out, like, say, 10 years ago. Willie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you got to go back a good little bit in time to find the rookie classes that were strong. I would think that would be a real early 2000s, late 1990s.
Yeah.
You had like Jimmy and who was it? Jimmy and Kevin Harvick in the same class together. And Jeff Gordon was right there around with them.
Tony Stewart as well.
Tony Stewart, yeah.
Carl Edwards.
But even those guys paid their dues at the beginning. They stepped into pretty good equipment. But I'm talking, yeah. But then there was a gap where you had a lot of guys like your Eric Almirolas and your Ryan Blaney's. Those guys weren't really competitive. They weren't really. You didn't see those guys in the top 10 very often. They were with a second-tier team, and they usually ran second-tier races. So this is kind of a weird time for NASCAR. They've made it very competitive. I think if people that have given up on NASCAR maybe 5 years ago, if they gave it another shot, I think they dig it because there's a lot of fun stuff going on as far as competitiveness with the drivers go. So,
well, these young guys as a whole have been very competitive. The issue is that from a betting perspective, it's very difficult to try to pinpoint exactly when youngsters going to have a good run.
Absolutely. Yeah. You figure, I wish there was some kind of bet for, years of experience for top 5, over under, best play. I don't know what, but something. I noticed, and before we get on to our props, one more thing. I noticed that you guys both, like I did, you had wanted no part of Denny Hamlin. And for me, it was the way, in spite of Hamlin being a hot driver right now, it was the way that this team has run on mile and a half this year, which is not well at all. I'm just kind of curious for you two, what factors went into fading Denny Hamlin?
That was one of the main factors. The other is that I just wasn't a fan of the price available. I know that he's had some success on this track, but as you just said, they've kind of struggled on mile and a halves. And I feel like for Hamlin, 7-1 seems a little bit low for me, for somebody who has struggled a little bit on these type of tracks. I thought that him and Truex could have arguably flipped odds, and that would have made sense to me. Hamlin at 10-1 seems about right to me. 9-1.
Yeah, I'd have been a buyer at 10-1 probably.
I think Truex, as you might agree with me, should be the one priced 7-1 or 8-1 as opposed to Hamlin.
Yeah, and Truex would be my if I was going to put together a superfecta with 4 drivers, Truex would have been my 4th.
Yeah, I mean you're also a little bit biased after what happened last week, so I can understand that. So.
I know, but you always you try to get rid of that, but yeah, it does definitely creep in. Willie, any other reasons you faded Denny Hamlin here?
Well, if you look at his recent results here on this track as well as other mile and a halves, he just hasn't been that overly successful. And I will say, spoiler alert, I did use him in a prop to hedge.
Okay.
But we'll get to that here in a few.
Well, in fact, let's start it off now. Willie, what's your first prop?
I might as well give it out. It's Denny Hamlin top Toyota.
Okay.
I think that's just a good way to hedge my Kyle Busch. I was kind of looking at all of the Toyotas. I don't really think that Truex and Jones will be a factor here. And I was just looking at a way to, which one I wanted to play as my outright and which one I'd rather use as the top Toyota to hedge. And I'll just take Denny at plus 170 for top Toyota to hedge.
So I actually want to ask you about that for a second. I know I took Truex to win, and Scott also likes Truex as well. Why are you a little bit low on Truex this week?
Well, for one, he's never won here, and he's just, if you look at his results, he's never just been overly dominant on this track either.
Okay. I kind of like the consistency with the top 10s, but I see your point. I do agree that he hasn't won. I think he should be – I should think he'll be hovering around the top 10 late. I'm assuming, Scott, you agree with that?
Yeah. I think he'll be competitive here. I think I don't know that he'll be a factor, but yeah, I think he could definitely slide into that 7-10 spot late in the race for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty, what do you got for your first prop?
All right, so I'm just going to warn you, it's a pretty short list of props. Once again, wasn't really a big fan of much available. One thing I have done, this is one of the only props I haven't had much success with this year. It's going to be on the stage 1, which has not really panned out. I've had some close ones, but never actually gotten a guy to the winner circle for stage 1. I like Harvick to win stage 1 at plus 450 on DraftKings. This is a really mind-blowing statistic. Harvick has won stage 1 in 4 of his last 5 races here. So I don't know how he's not favored to win stage 1 here. I feel like I have to take him to win stage 1. And he's going to be starting towards the front. As we talked about before, he's going to be starting 5th. And if you look at the drivers ahead of him, I know that some drivers have had some success in earlier stages. I know Almirola won a stage 1. It was either a week ago or a couple weeks ago. I know currently, if you look at the stage winner, Ryan Blaney's the favorite at 4-1. Kyle Busch is at 7-1. Harvick at 4.5-1 sounds a little bit low. But when you win stage 1 here at 4 of your last 5 trips, I got to take that. So for me, I'm going to take Harvick to win stage 1 at 4.5-1 on DraftKings.
I think that's very solid. I think that's a great price, especially when you're taking him 3-1 to win the race. So yeah, picking up a little extra value on Kevin Harvick, not a bad thing at all. I'm going to take a matchup prop for my first one. I'm going to take Joey Logano over Brad Keselowski. I'm going to lay a little juice on this at minus 122. This track has not been a friend of Keselowski at all. The Blue Deuce just not getting around Texas very well. In fact, he's got just 2 top 10s over his last 6 starts there. While Logano has run very well, he was close to making my list as well. He has 3 top 5s over his last 6 starts, including 6 top 10s. Give me the kid at minus 122 over the Blue Deuce. Willie, what you got?
Before I get my second,
first of all, yeah. Anybody got pros or cons on that on my pick there?
I was looking at it. Keselowski's been terrible here. Logano's been pretty good. The main issue I have is I'm just not a big fan of Logano as a driver.
I know.
I think he's good. I don't think he's great. I think Keselowski's the better overall driver, but on this track, Keselowski's been terrible. So I can't really criticize you for taking that.
Fair enough. Willie?
I did take a really good look at that matchup myself as well. But what just scares me is if you look at Keselowski's results on every other track of this type, he's good on. You know what I mean? It's just something weird about maybe it's the heat. Who knows? But it's just like it's something I know in the back of my mind, like he's due for some success on this track. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave that one away.
Well, he's a Wisconsin guy, so he probably doesn't like that heat down there. So, all right, Willie, what do you got for your second prop?
I'm gonna take Cole Custer in the Stewart Haas number 41 to finish top 10 at 2-1. He's been been pretty good driver here in the Xfinity. He's got 6 starts in the Xfinity, and he's got 5 top 10s in those 6 starts. He got an average finish of 9.5. And mix that with how well he drives on these types of tracks and how decent he's been this year. I think him top 10 at 2-1 is a good price.
Okay. Yeah, I think that number I don't think I'd be a buyer till about 3-1 on that myself. It seems a little short. Scott, what do you think?
I was leaning around 3-1, 3.5-1. For me, the thing about Custer is that even though he did win last week and he has had some success on 1.5 mile tracks, he's also been one of these inconsistent guys where I feel like he is either going to make a decent run, which, the win came out of nowhere. He was, 300-1 last week? That came out of nowhere. But for the most part, what has he finished? Mostly in the 20s?
Yeah.
I think he's got potential. I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to put together an encore after such a ridiculous performance last week.
I think we're paying a little price for recency bias there.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. I just don't really – I think if he did not win last week, I think this price would be around 3-1.
I agree. But we do nothing but wish you the best, Willie, of course, as always. Scotty, what do we got for your prop number D?
This is actually my last prop. It's a very light card. I wasn't a fan of any of the manufacturer props. I didn't really like anything. So this one I'm going to be going to a matchup, and it's actually kind of funny because it's the exact opposite of the matchup I took last week. I like Austin Dillon over Ryan Newman, and that's available at -121 on DraftKings. In terms of actual results on this track, both drivers, based on averages, relatively even. But Dillon has finished 14th or better in 4 of his last 5 races here. So he has been pretty good. I wouldn't say he's been great, but he's been hovering around the top 10, give or take. And he's been pretty solid on 1.5 mile tracks this season, Austin Dillon. So this seems to be a pretty solid comfort zone for him. Newman, he's mediocre. He didn't really impress me last week because I had him last week, so I know about how underwhelming he was. I think Newman has a better chance of finishing in the 20s. I think Dillon should finish somewhere between 10 to 20. So for that reason, plus the fact that Dillon, in addition to finishing 13th last week, he did finish 3rd in the All-Star race, so he actually did really well in the middle of the week. So I don't want to say he's turned a corner, but I kind of like what I've been seeing from him lately. So I think that he's got a little bit of a hot hand in comparison to Newman, and he's had a little bit better results here. So for that reason, I'll take Dillon over Newman at -121 on DraftKings.
Okay. Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, no.
I know that Newman and Dillon aren't exactly bettors that you're going to be drivers are going to be sprinting towards, but it's more of a recency thing for me. I just think Dillon has looked a lot better lately, and he's been good on 1.5 miles. So that's why.
Yeah, and there's always a lot of value down the card. We talk about that every week. Everybody's always looking at the Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick matchups, but there's a lot of value with these lesser known drivers. The drivers haven't been as successful. Obviously, Ryan Newman, very well known driver, but it's not. I don't hate that. I didn't do enough research into that particular matchup to have a strong opinion. Although fading Ryan Newman, to me, never really a bad plan.
Well, let me ask you one thing just really quickly. I mentioned how Dillon came in 3rd earlier this week at the All-Star race. Do you think that will build any confidence at all, or do you think that it's just for first place for $1 million? Who cares?
I don't think it. I think that's if it was a similar track, it was similar circumstances.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the similar track. I was just simply wondering if you. I personally think that might help him with his confidence a little bit because Dillon's results have been pretty underwhelming.
Right.
Now he gets a bronze medal against some of the other best drivers.
It's possible. It's possible that it does give you a little bit of confidence. I know a lot of this is mental, as far as picking your spots and making moves and things like that. So it certainly could engender a little bit of confidence going into this race. Willie, what do you think?
Well, I'll say that I don't hate to play against fading Newman because Newman has seemingly been fade material this year. But I don't know that Austin Dillon's somebody that I like to put faith in either.
Yeah.
Because help him and Ty Dillon both, they can't seem to avoid wrecks to save their lives.
Yeah. The main issue with Dillon for me, but I just think he's the better driver on this track. But, Willie, do you think that the results from the All-Star race could have some type of impact on the psyche of a driver?
I feel like nobody except for the first two, maybe.
Yeah.
The ones that were right there with him, and then, Elliott, obviously. Spoiler alert, I got my last prop involves Elliott, so.
All right.
Well, you can transition to that right now.
I'm going to do my second prop real quick here. I've got Willie, have you only done one prop or you did two?
I've done two.
Okay, yeah. My second prop is going to be I'm just taking Ford minus 105. Scott, we've been taking this. You kind of got me started on the Fade and Chevy, taking the Ford and the Toyota. There's usually enough value as you're getting, plus 130 at least.
Did you say minus 105?
Did I say minus? I meant plus. Sorry.
It's plus one. It's plus 110 on Fox Bet.
Oh, I do have it. Yeah, plus 110 at Fox Bet. I'll take that. Because I do have it at minus 105. That was from DraftKings, so I will take plus 110. Yeah, for me, there's just not enough value to take the two manufacturers here when you're only you're looking to make a tenth of a unit in profit. So I'm going all in on Ford. They've been the dominating manufacturer so far this season. Chevy's done absolutely nothing, and Toyota, while they have had some success, I like Ford right here to win the race. Okay, Willie, what's your final prop?
Well, it's two bets in one. It's for a half unit apiece, and it's Chase Elliott for stage 1 and stage 2.
Oh.
His stage 1 price is 11 to 1, and his stage 2 price is 8.5 to 1. And he just won $1.1 million. I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about himself. And I just think that'll translate over to him at least winning a stage. I don't think he wins this race, but I think he grabs one of the first two stages.
Well, he's also had decent results here in the past. He's one of those drivers where I was looking into for a similar logic just based on the confidence. And I thought his results were good, but not good enough for me to pull the trigger for the entire race. But he's one of these drivers who isn't afraid to put the pedal to the metal, and if he wants to win a stage, he'll make the moves to win the stage. So I don't hate that play at all.
Give me the prices on him again. What was that? Stage 1 and stage 2?
Stage 1 was 11 to 1.
Stage 1 and 8 was 11. It was
8.5.
8.5. Both those are DraftKings.
All right, I got you. All right, Scott, you're out of props.
Yeah, I tried to find something else. FoxBet didn't upload any matchups until earlier this morning, so I didn't really look at them that much in depth.
All right.
Even when I didn't like any of them. I told you before, I'm taking this race relatively lightly because I'm not really a fan of much. So I'm just gonna take it easy, save some money, and save some units for future races.
I've got a fatal four-way here with Kurt Busch. I got Kurt Busch over Almirola, Johnson, and Jones at plus 250. I think we've pretty much explored all of those drivers here. Almirola sitting on the pole, hasn't had a ton of success here. I like the old man. I'm going to double down on Kurt Busch in the four-way there with those guys at plus 250. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Seems like a decent price. I feel like that's one of those foursomes where I feel like there's value, but it's pretty dangerous. I don't really think that there's a great chance that he wins that foursome, but you're just taking it for the value. Right. I told you before, my main strategy for foursomes is to take two of the four drivers. Yeah. Kind of create a 50-50 split there and try to, make some units there. So maybe if I was leaning there, I'd look to Busch and Johnson if you wanted to make maybe a little bit over a unit, if you wanted to make a play there. But for me personally, I'm going to pass. But if I was going to attack that Group C option there, I would probably go for Busch and Johnson.
Take the old men. Very good. Willie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't hate your play there, but I would probably do like Scott said too, because Johnson is kind of especially given how good he's driven on this track, and the fact that he keeps getting spun out late. That can only happen so many times.
Yeah, it can only happen so many times before he snaps too. That's I think he's already got Brad. I think Brad Kozlowski made the list last weekend, so we'll see how that all plays out. Willie, you got any more props?
No, that's it.
Look at that, boys. Scott, you got anything else?
No. I had the under. What's up? 38 and a half.
Under, man. There it is, guys. Before the show, we had we talked about this is going to be a relatively light week. We talked about the over-under being 38 and a half minutes. And, guys, we brought it in at 36 minutes. Very, very impressive. Not bad at all, between 35 and 36 minutes. So, yeah, there you go. Not our usual hour and 15 minutes. So, congratulations, boys. And hopefully we'll have some success this week. Willie, any final thoughts on the race from Texas?
Like I said, I hate this track, but, it's racing. It's usually pretty boring racing on this track, which is why I really don't like it. But to each its own. I talked about it off camera when we were talking about the truck race. There's a pretty good price on Kyle Busch tonight, for those interested in laying a little bit of juice. But other than that, that's it.
Yeah, Kyle Busch at minus 155, believe it or not, is a good price in Kyle Busch in the truck. So, Scott, any thoughts?
For me, it's better than nothing. It's interesting to go from horse racing to something with a little bit more horsepower the following day. So I'm looking forward to watching the race before you see basically no cautions and one driver's going to run away with it. So that's kind of why I like Truex and Harvick. It seem to be these two drivers who, when they get in the lead with very, very small amounts of very, very, little caution, they are just going to coast. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar happen in this race.
Good enough. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to be one of the more exciting races, but we'll see what happens. We'll tune in because, like you said, it's what we got. And next weekend, we may even have a little baseball to talk about, so that'll be cool. So anyway, until then, we're going to watch NASCAR. And today we're going to watch horse racing. We're going to watch a little UFC tonight.
Golf.
We're going to watch a little golf, of course, see how all that goes. So, yeah, enjoy your sports-filled weekend, everybody. And we'll be back on Monday with a recap of how we did on everything. But until then, I am Scott Steen. He is Scott Reichel, and he is Winning Willie Mormon. And we appreciate those two guys, and we appreciate you guys stopping by and checking us out. As always, don't forget to drop us a comment. Let us know what you're playing. Whatever sport it is, if you got a solid play for the weekend, we'd like to know what it is because we're going to tail you as well. And, don't forget to check out winnersandwhiners.com and statsalt.com for deep dives into the every event that's going on. You want to figure out a good angle, not just esports, but esports as well. Willie is still hot in esports, so make sure you stop by and check him out. And, our sister site over at StatSalt as well. So you guys, as always, we couldn't do it without you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again Monday. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Be healthy. And we'll see you back here on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.